think Zafar is yet to join. Thanks, Abdul. Yeah, any questions in yesterday's topic, please let me know. Just waiting for Zafar. And request every one of you to be on mute. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and you can ask me the question. Venkatesh. Right, so we'll continue with today's topic. And yesterday we were discussing about data services management console, and today we will look into the remaining topics of it. So the navigation for that is start all programs, data services, and data services management console. So this is a web-based tool, web-based administrator, and once you log into this one, so we were talking about the administrator here. So this is a place where the core admin activities happen, and yesterday we were talking about the status and batch, which talks about your local, and the status talks about the entire system status. And if you want to look at the specific repository status, you can go to batch, and from there in the batch you can go to your repository, and once you click on your repository you will see all the jobs, and there are three different ways in which you can display the data here. So last execution of the job, or all executions in last 30 days, or all executions from a start date to an end date. So this is the criteria, and apart from that we have job configuration and schedule. So batch job configuration is a tab where we can execute, schedule, or export our job to the third-party schedulers, or go and look at the schedule and create the schedule. So from here also you can go and look at the schedule and create one more. And repository schedules is a place where you can only activate, deactivate, and look at the schedules that are present there. Right, so this is about our batch. The third one is real time. So generally I will log into another server and try to show it to you. So generally that will not be active by default. So we need to set up the we need to do some admin activities to get that real time there. So this is another server where the real-time services are not configured, or to tell it more properly, the access server is not configured, so you will not see that real time here in the system because there is some patch issue. Just a second, once it is refreshed we can see this one here. So while it gets refreshed, I'll show you where we have to go and set this one. Under the management, you have something called as access server. So here in the access server, if you just add the access server credentials, right, by giving the server name, access server communication port, and use SSL as yes, and once you give these credentials and click on ping, it should be able to communicate. You will get here a message saying that it is communicated with the access server. So once you do that, then only you will be able to see your real-time services, or real-time, like the way the batch jobs are displayed here. The batch represents, you can see the real-time here. So let me just check if that one is refreshed. Oops. Okay, so it's taking some time because so many repositories are there on the system. So generally, if you see a fresh system, you will not see the real time here. And if you expand the real time, you will see the real time server name, and then under that you will see the real time services. So we'll look more into this real time services when we are dealing with the XML data, which is our next topic. Okay, so we have real-time jobs, manipulating XML data, and real-time jobs too. So in that session we will look more in details of this real-time services and web services. And SAP connections is an RFC connection which is done by the basis guy. So it's out of scope, or I haven't worked on it, to tell you frankly. So it is something like you make the SAP system communicate with your data services system. So earlier it used to communicate with the data services system like a third-party tool, but with the recent enhancements on data services, SAP generally communicates with the other SAP applications through RFC. RFC stands for remote function call, and now you will be able to communicate with the data services also as a third party, as an internal SAP tool with RFCs. So remote function calls, then adapter instances, we'll look at that in real-time services. Now this is a very good concept, which is server group. So server group is something that you will define especially when you are working on a large environment, and you are especially working on a cluster environment. So we know something called as a job server. So that I'm just taking you back to the architecture of data services. Right, so we have something called as a job server, and which our repository is registered to. And through our repository, we connect to a designer. Right, so just a one-on-one thing I'm just saying here. So whenever I execute a job from my data services designer, it gets executed on the job server through my repository. So likewise, you can have more number of user 1, user 2, user 3, and so on, and that gets executed through this repository on a single job server. So let us say it is like one job server versus multiple users. So let us say you are in a clustered environment, right? So you are in a clustered environment where each and everything is installed on one server, and all of them are clubbed together. It's like in a clustered, you have the repository manager installed on one server, database installed on one server, job server is installed on another machine. So on different machines we install all these things and we try to club them and make them as a single system. So in that cases, you can install job server on multiple machines. It is not just only one machine that you can install on install your job server on. You can install your job server on server 1, then again another job server on server 2 and 3, and let us say there is one more, is 4. So on 4 servers you can install 4 job servers. So this is a clustered environment, keep that in mind. We cannot do that on a single machine installations or standalone installations. Right, so JS1, and this one is JS2, and this is JS3, and this is JS4. Now if this job server is overburdened, like every designer, so let us say we have 10 people working on this project, so 1 to 10 persons are executing their jobs, and once the development is done, everybody will be running their jobs in the test phase of the project. So at this phase, if everybody is pointing to the job server and running their jobs now and again, so one job server is getting overloaded. But as far as we remember, we can register a local repository in your job server. So it is not that you can register your local repository in a group of job servers, right? You can't go and register that in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then automatically it gets switched. So in that case, what you need to do, every person who is registered as a user here, their local repository should be registered on all the 4 job servers, and automatic distribution will not happen. So if we know that manually everybody is running on this, then we go and run on this one, or we go run on this one. But that is not the case. So there is something called a job server group. So this job server group helps us to combine all the job servers, point number 1, and the second one is the system will, right, so it will try to combine all the job servers, and the second thing is system will decide on which job server this particular job from your local repository should be distributed to. So how is that defined? So this is an interview question, definitely, just to check your levels if you are like applying for a position of a lead or an architect. right, or as an admin. Just to check your level of understanding on the system, they will definitely ask you this question. Okay, what is your basic understanding on the server groups, right? So this is all about the server groups that we are discussing now. So this server groups combines all the different systems into one server groups, or you can create a server group and register all the 4 job server in it. And now this is what the server group does. It checks the ideal time of each and every job server. For every 5 seconds, once in 5 seconds, it will pick the most ideal time from all the job servers, and based on that it will switch the job execution to the most ideal system. Right, now we got, so this server group, what it will do, constant it will be taking, like what is your idle time, what is your idle time, like how many threads are in the backend, and how many threads are empty, how many are occupied. So it will go and continuously monitor all the 4 job servers, and it will keep collecting the statistics once in every 5 seconds. So now when I collect statistics for job server 1, 2, 3, and 4, so let us say 3 is my most idle because nothing is running on that. So next input job, so whenever I execute one job, that job will be pointed to job server 3, because job server 3 is the most idle job server at that moment based on the stats that is collected by the server group. So this is what the server group is all about. But uh, on an average, if you're having like 10 people in the project, never mind, you can point all of them to single job server. But just in case, if you're working on a big data migration project where you need to have 40 to 50 or 100 data services consultants involved, so in those cases, definitely, yeah, you need to go for server group, because at least in 1 minute we will have 20 people executing their jobs, right? So that's the statistics we collected from one of my ex project. It is world's biggest data migration project that I was part of. So in that we uh, implemented this server group, and we picked some statistics where we noticed that every minute 20 people are running their jobs out of 100 people that are there in the project. So that is the reason why we went for the server group. So this is the concept theatrically. Now let us go and look at it. Now if you go and look at the server group, so you have something called as server group, and click on all server groups. So once you click on this server groups, you will see 2 tabs. One is your server group status. So there are 2 groups here that are created as part of the previous batches, and it's showing what is the status on that, right? So job server not a part of the server group because somebody must have deleted that job server. And now go to the configuration tab. So remember, the server on which I am teaching here is a standalone server installation. So it is not a distributed clustered environment for BODS. It is one server where the entire BODS is installed. So we will not have multiple job servers here. So we go and click on, go to the configuration tab and click on add. The server group starts with the SG underscore. That's a naming convention given by SAP for that. So SG underscore LR1. That's the server group name, and to which repository you are pointing it to. So go and pick your repository from the drop down, and then Yeah. So once you select your local repository, the job server mapped to that local repository will be displayed. And in a server group, right, if you remember this, we need to go and register it to multiple job servers. So you need to select all of them here by the checkboxes and click on apply, and your server group will be created automatically. And once your server group is created, you can go to your data services designer. So this is where you can go and switch your job to execute on a server group. So it is not just your job server, but you can go here and select your server group as well and point your job to your server group so that your job gets executed on the server group. So this is how you create your job server group, by binding more than one job server to a single group and name it with sg underscore l underscore and your repository name most precisely, and then you can point all your job servers to them. And from your data services designer, when you are executing your job, go to the job execution properties window, and here you have a drop down where you can find that newly created job server group. That's about the server group, and we saw the central repository in and out, secure central repository, and then users and groups. So we'll go and deploy the users from central management console, create groups here, and map the users to those groups so that they will get their respective authentications, right? And next one is a profiler repository. So what is a profiler repository? So if you are if you want to take some stats on your data, right? So you want to maintain some statistical analysis on your data, or the data that is present in your local repository. So you can have your profile repository created. So to create a profiler repository, you can go on to your repository manager with the navigation start, all programs, data services 4.2, and you can go to your repository manager and you can select the repository type as profiler and sorry. So it's the same process like how you create your local repository. You need to create a database, and then using repository manager you need to create a profiler repository. db underscore prof. Alright, so I created this database, and here so once you click on create, it will go and create your profiler repository, and once it is done, you have to go and register that in your central management console. So no job server for your profiler repository, no need to register that. Right, so associated profiler repository to a job server. Okay, so it's asking us to associate that. Sorry, my bad. So go to the server manager. Just give me a second, back throat. I'm just giving the same credentials, view 41 db underscore profiler, then username and password. Just click on apply. It's added and click on OK. OK. Close and restart. It will restart the services on the system. And once it is restarted, you can go to your central management console, go to your data services and register your profiler repository. So the same way you create or register your local and central repository, you will go and so the way you create or register your local and central repository, you'll go and register your profiler repository as well in the same manner. Then database name is db underscore prof and username, password, and this one we always kept this to no. Now let us make it as yes. So this is a profiler repository, and just a second. So 8080 is the server port. Okay, just give me a second, guys. I'll just re-enter the credentials here. Backend database is Microsoft SQL Server, BU41, database name is db underscore prof. So once you do this, all these credentials, you just click on test connection. The reason why I gave 8080 here is this is the open communication port number. So that's mapped to the profiler server port here. So just click on OK and click on save. So once it is registered here, right, as a profiler repository. Let's go to the next page. So this is the name that we gave, repo underscore profiler repository. And once it is done here, again, you should be able to see your profiler repository here. So to add your profiler repository to Data Services Designer, so right next to your job server here on the right side corner, you have one more button called as profiler. So double click on that one and you can see your profiler repository here. So this is one. Select that, key the username and just key in the database password, and your profiler is activated. Right, and those credentials so you can see the profiler repository here, right? So if you run any jobs and collect those statistics, those can be displayed here. Next one is object promotion. So we have two sub objects here. One is export configuration, the second one is import configuration. So when you click on object promotion, select an object. It is asking you to select an object. So just go to the drop down and here you see export objects, right? There's option 1. Export substitution parameters, export system configurations, and the next one is an import. So especially when we export, so when I do an export, I export from my environment to another environment. So this is an admin tool, keep that in mind. So if I need to export all my configurations, right, my substitution parameters from my development to a QA environment. So this is the process. If I want to export the objects, I'll go and select the objects and click on next. No repository is configured to export. So if in this case, so generally you'll see something called as settings here. Right, so just let us see if we get any options here. Export configuration. So when I want to export any object here also, I think we'll get the same error, or yeah. So this is where you will register your local repository. So it is LR1. So this is my local repository. So select that and associated repositories. Just do that. And now there are two mechanisms in which you can export your configuration. So one is to your FTP and the other one is to your shared drive. So if you just click on export configuration, so there are two ways in which we can export your configurations to. One is to an FTP and the second one is to your shared drive. So here if you go and just click on add FTP, it was asking all these FTP credentials, so you can give your and target directory as C:, right? Go and select your, I mean this should not be a C:, it should be a Z drive, your network drive. So once you give these things, click on save, right? And it's not working on the system. All right, so let me explain you this. So we will define a path. Either it is an FTP path or a shared directory where you want to export your configurations. And here, import configurations, you will define again a path where you want to import your configuration, right? So I'll define these export and import paths here, right? If I want to import, so what is the path from where I have to import, right? If you have to export, from where I have to where I have to export. So we will define these two configurations here, and then we will go to this object promotion, and if it is export, right, click on next, and there you need to pick that particular outbound directory path where you are trying to save these objects, and then you have to export them, so it will be exported as a file. And when you go into the QA environment, you will go and pick the import configuration, and from there you will select that particular listing and you will import that one into the system. Right, you will select the path from your inbound directory, right? So go for the next. So to which repository, which environment you want to import, select those things, import, and then confirm, and your promotion will be done. So generally when we move all our objects to environment from dev to QA, so we spoke about this with this diagram, multi-user instance and single user instance. We will not go with the object promotion because in all the previous versions, the standard ones, we used our central repository as one place which will upload our code from local repository, and using code promotion consultants will be promoting our code to the other environments. So in those cases, there were some issues, right? Some patch issues where they could not, they were able to only promote their jobs, but not their data stores and their configurations. So in that case, this is a newly added thing to the data services. It's from 4.x. It was not there in the prior versions. So this is not available in the previous versions. This is the latest one from Data Services 4.1. And next one is the management. And if you expand management, this is the core area where you manage your server, manage your landscape, I can say, right? So earlier in 3.x versions, first option here under the management will be your repository, where you go and register your repository. In 4.x, in the current version, we have been registering our repositories in the central management console. Go to data services, click on configure a new data services repository, and we have been registering our repositories here. But in the previous version, we used to do it under the management, right? So once the repositories are registered here, then they will be displayed into the batch. But now, if they are registered in central management console, they will be displayed under the batch. The reason between these two here is you have a CMS connection which enables your data services management console to communicate with your central management console, right? So a close integration. So this is one option. The second one, let us say here, is your data stores. And if you expand the data stores, you will see your all the local repository names. And if you click on this one, you'll see the list of data stores that are present here from a drop down. So I can choose between my data stores, and I can go and change the username and password or whatever the credentials that is required. Right? So with this, what an admin can do, there is no need for him to log into your system, to your local repository, and key in the username and password. So he can do all your data store related activities from the central management console only. So there's no need for him to get into your local repository, and take your username and password, go and change your data store. No, he can directly do it from the data services management console. Right, so he can go and select what are the data store. He can change your default configurations here. So default it is set to dev. So he can go and change that to QA, right? And he can apply, do the changes. And once you do the changes, click on apply, and you can switch or you can change the passwords and apply them from your data services management console without logging into the designer system. Then substitution parameters. So substitution parameters are something that starts with $, right? If you see this one, this thing starts with $, and these are the locations or the paths where your address cleansing directories are present or geocoded. So these paths are given, or these paths are automatically picked at the time of installation. So if you are creating some custom parameters and you have some file, so you created some data directory and you want your job to point to your data directory, so you create a substitution parameter and you point your substitution parameter to that data directory here, so that the system can refer to that directory whenever you call that substitution parameter. So it's just like the way you call your global variables, you'll be calling your substitution parameters. And report server configuration. Just give me a second. So next one is the report server configuration. This is you set up the paths where you generally export your reports on data services. So if I create some validation reports, if I create some data quality reports, so by default all my reports will be exported to this path. Or if you want to change this, you can change this. And the pattern in which your reports needs to be exported is that a rich text format document, which is nothing but your Word document or a PDF document. So when you run a job, so it picks the statistics and creates this file, and second time you run, it will be created with _1, _2, and so. So if you want to override it, you can check this one, and the language you can select it. Default it's English, and you click on apply, and whatever the reports, right, that I run on my local repository will be generated on this path. And next one is access server. We'll see that once we are looking in the real-time services or XML job. Next one is profiler configuration. So for your profiler to work, so this will be the basic statistics. This is something that is taken by the system by default from time of installation. Status intervals. So remember, we see this in the status or batch if you go to the local repository. So this is something that you see here. So here you set them to be default, like default here is the last execution of job. Okay, now if you want to change that to last 90 days, you can set this interval here, and that will be displayed here in the status. And next one is CMS connections, which will allow you to communicate to the central management console. And next one is your certification logs. So generally, if you look at sometimes on the Windows or on the Internet Explorer, we get a message saying that this certificate is not supported, right? So which means for every application to run, so there should be a certificate at the back end where it certifies your application to run on this system. So these are created and maintained at the time of installation. No need to worry about that. But just in case, if they get corrupted and you don't have time to reinstall your services and reinstall your data services, then you can go to this path on some other system, pick those files and copy and paste them here, right? So that is what we can do in the certification log to make them up and running. So these are the different options that we see in our administrator. So like as an administrator, when you get into the system, so these are the different areas, these are the different aspects that you will be working on, right? You will be checking the overall status of all the local repositories. You can drill down to one particular local repository and look at the job execution. You can schedule them, right? You can, oops, I think we are on the other server. So now, yeah, finally got this one. If you look at this, you don't see real time here. You only see your batch because we haven't configured our one second. The server is a bit slow. So why it has gone here? Let's check on that. Generally, once you configure your access server, it was showing before, right? But now you don't see it. Yep. Right. So now, once your access server is configured, you'll see the real time here. Then real-time web services, adapters, and this one, access server. So access server, we already just saw it. But anyways, these things will be covered when we are talking about the XML data and real-time jobs. So as I told you in the beginning, I just don't want to go by one here. I want to cover them as a scenario. So central repository, we covered this part when we are working with the central repository, and the remaining topics here will be covered when we are talking about the XML and real-time services. And today we completed all the remaining things. So now if you click back on the home, so it will take you to the home page. Next, the second one is auto documentation. So this is one good advantage here. So this will help you to create a wonderful documentation. So here you see something called as a setting. So if you want to go to a particular repository and you don't see that repository name here, so you just click on this one, settings, and here you can switch your repository and just click on apply. So I see my local repository in my jobs, and if I click on my job, it will show my jobs graphical representation here, and also it will show me how many variables are used, how many tables are used, the entire documentation of my job. So if you go to the tables used tab, so it will tell you how many tables are used in this as a source and as a target. So you see this one, Mara and Marcy, as source and targets, because we use these two tables and joined them and created one table called as materials, which is our final target. So that is the reason these are mentioned as source and target, and only these two SAP tables, Mara and Marcy, are our sources. So this is a beautiful documentation that is generated by the system, which will, even if you do give a comment by mistake, even that comment will be captured. So if you want to go and look at the scripts, so this is one more place where admin can go and look at the entire code, right? So now you just saw the script. Next, you want to go and look at the condition. If the condition is satisfied, then it goes to the data flow. If not, it goes here and nothing is found, so it goes back to the next one. Next condition, and so on. So you can drill down. So I gave annotations at the job level, so even those annotations are displayed. So you can drill down to any level, right? You can see them here. And if you want to print this to an auto document, so you have a printer icon displayed here. So just click on the job level and you have a printer icon displayed here. So once this page is refreshed, just click on print. And you need to make sure that you select all these things, and based on your requirement, MS Office or PDF, you need to select this. So generally when we go for MS Word is when there is a requirement that you need to, add your client logo onto this document and send it to the customer. So we'll export that into a Word document, then add the customer logo, convert it back to PDF, and we'll send it. If not, you're just looking at it normally, you can select PDF and click on print, and automatically your PDF will be generated with the job name. And this is my document. So I did not really invest a lot of time here. So this is a screenshot of what I have done. And now not only this, the screenshot, it will pick all the variables that are used, all the tables that are used, and what are the data stores that are used. As per the data store, it will go and tell me the tables. And this is my first data flow. The diagram, the screenshot of that, and object properties. So the mapping tree for this table, so which field of this table is mapped to this table, so which field from my source. So the entire mapping tree with their descriptions, whatever is available will be shown here. So this is a beautiful document that will be created. So now the third data flow is join. We join these two tables to a single table called stage materials. So now it will say which field from table A and which field from table B are used here. So this is a wonderful document that you can create using your data services, and you don't invest any time here. So this will help you to save your development time. So this is the advantage of your auto documentation. Right, next one is your data validations. So if you look at this one, evaluates the reliability of your target data based on the validation rules you created in your data services batch jobs in consistency or errors, to quickly review and assess and identify potential inconsistencies or errors in the source data. So this is done. Generally, once your jobs are done, your data is loaded into the target. So just to validate your data or the rules that you applied here, so you'll just go and do this one. So just go to the settings and select your local repository. And once you select your local repository, just go to the functional area tab and just create one. Right, so just click on save, and once you click on save, it will show all the available jobs here, right? So all the available jobs with some validations on that one, right? So now, as of now, it's not displaying, but here you need to, or let me maximize this one. So here what you need to do is, once you create the functional area, so what are the validation rules that we are applied on our data or our local repository level, those jobs will be displayed. Select your job and add it to the associated batch jobs, then just click on apply and OK, and then go to the business rules tab. So business rules, again you give the naming as BR1, set the priority, right? Is that a low, medium, high, and just click on save, and again it will show the available validation rules that are present on your local repository. You need to select them. And now this is not a job, it is a rule that is available, and you need to select that and associate it with the validation rules, and just click on apply and OK, and your functional area is refreshed, and it will pick the data from your this thing and it will display it. So somehow it is not working on the systems or even the previous system. Some patches need to be upgraded, I guess. So this is how you go and do that. You go and create, select your local repository, and view data starting at right. Then you go and create your functional area, and in that functional area, once you click on save, you will see the available batch jobs. You associate the batch jobs, and once this is done, you go to the business rules tab, and here in the business rule you need to pick the business rule. So it is like your repository, functional area, business rule, and the validation rules. You pick the validation rules and associate that, and you just click on apply and OK, and based on the data that you have there, so your stats will be displayed. So you can also look at the history of this one by clicking on view history. It will show you the graphical representation of that one. So if you have any historical functional areas created and you are monitoring the data, you can do this one. Right, so next one is impact and lineage analysis. Analyze the end-to-end impact and lineage of data services, tables and columns, and SAP business objects, enterprise objects such as universe, right, business views and reports. So this one, again, if you look at this is not just limited to data services. This can also call your business objects enterprise, the second half's objects like universe, reports, views, business views, and you can what you can do the manipulation, or so you can do an impact and lineage analysis on top of them as well, right? So what is an impact and lineage analysis? So remember in our data services, you have your source tables and target tables. So if somebody asks you, like, go and delete this table or modify this table or don't use this table, use other table, so you have to do an impact analysis. So if I go and do a changes on this, what is the impact, right? If I go and do the changes on this target table, what is the lineage? So that can be done using your data services management console. In your data services management console, you have this tab called impact and lineage analysis, and this is where you can do that. So here from the top down, you can select what type of object that you are looking for. Is that in universe, class, business view, elements and fields and reports, or tables and columns? So tables and columns are related to data services. So once you select your tables and columns, so it will show the repository and the data stores. And if I expand these data stores, you will see the number of tables that are used here. Right, so if you want to switch the repository, you can go to the settings and change them. Now, if I look at this one, my orders table, you just need to click on this table and it will give you the overview. The table name is orders. It's from this data store. This is the database owner name, and the type of an object is a table. Right, next one is impact. So if I go and do changes on this one, what will be impacted? So it's not showing anything here. So the moment you put your mouse pointer on that, it will show uh, this one, the data store and owner name. So let us look at another table called as stage underscore Mara. So it's a template table. So in the previous versions, you actually can see a pretty good impact and lineage analysis, but I don't know in the current version if some options has changed. But so actually, let me tell you how this works, right? So if you look at this one, right? So it's talking about the attributes of this table. Here's the template table and data store and all these things. But when it goes to impact, right? So if I do changes, how many tables will get impacted? So it will put an arrow mark and it will show all the tables. So if I do changes, all the tables that feed data from this will be impacted. So it has to give it that way. So that is the reason why I'm checking my source tables and this one, but it's not actually displaying it properly, the impact. So it should show like to how many tables this table is feeding data. It should display here. And the next one, likewise, the lineage. So if it is a target table, right? So it should show from how many tables it is fed so that you can directly do changes on the table without knowing from how many tables that this one is fed. We cannot go and directly do the changes. And the last tab is the mapping tree tab, where you can see how this table is used if it is a target table. If it is a source table, it will not have any mapping, but if it is a target table, right, you will see the mapping tree saying that how it is mapped to your source table. So in this data flow, these are the fields that I called, and this is how I mapped them. And in this data flow, these are the fields that I called, and this is how I mapped them. So uh, it will show till target column to source column mapping here, right? So everything is working fine, but I'm not sure like what is that option that is missing here. Right, but it should show the flow in which these tables are fed or will feed to the subsequent tables. So that gives you the impact and lineage. So looking at this diagram, you can go and do that. So next one is operational dashboard. So this is not a dashboard on your data, but this is a dashboard on your system performance. So just let's go back. View data dashboards of data services, job execution statistics. Okay, so this is not something on your data that is present on your table, but this is execution stats on your job server execution, right? So if you are pointing all your jobs to one particular job server, and if you are running it, so you need to know that if your job server is fine or if it is overloaded. You can see an accelerated meter here, which will show you from which local repository it is getting picked. So go to the settings, go to your local repository and job execution window. Last 90 hours. point. So we haven't executed any jobs here from the last 10 minutes. So right, so let me put it to last 10 hours. We'll go and refresh our jobs. I'm just executing them for the server statistics. I'm just so one more advantage of data services, there is no need for you to wait till one job is done. You can go and trigger them parallelly. So you can see all of them running here. Right, so we triggered some jobs, we executed them. Now go to your data services management console and just go to your settings, pick your repository, and you can just give apply. Where it's picking the data from the system, and now it shows me the statistics of the job execution. So if you see this, one job is still running, 25% is occupied, and there are 3 jobs that are successfully completed. You can see, go to your monitor and see 3 jobs are successfully done. One job is still running. Right, so it shows the current statistics. Right, so if you look at this one, this is the speedometer, which says first batch job started at 7:18 time, so that is the time on the system. So if you just click on this accelerator speedometer, it will take you to the list of jobs that are running. So here status green is completed and status blue is in run. So if you just click on the job name, it will take you to the data flows. What is the start time, execution time, how many rows are picked, right? Is that an audited or not audited thing? So from here as well, you can go and look into each and every data flow and see what is the time taken for this particular job's execution. Likewise, you can click on this one, the spy diagram, and look at the job that is still running. This one is still running, so it's showing this the duration time and it's still running. So if there are any errors, you can go and look at the errors here. Warnings, successfully completed jobs, you can see them from here. And here at the bottom diagram, this talks about the history of your job execution. So on November 12th, 13th, so on this system it is marked as November, so don't take me wrong. So here November 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and today is 18th. So how many times jobs are executed, what is its stats? So this one is November 17th, it's successfully completed, and there are 2 errors on November 17th. If you just click on them, it will again take you to those jobs which failed, so that you can go and look at those job descriptions. So these 2 jobs, we killed them yesterday when we are trying to schedule them from data services management console. So is the reason why it is showing up. Right, so successfully completed on 3 on today, and 1 is still running, and this is duration history, job execution duration history. So what is the time, what is the start time, and what is the duration that a particular job is running. And you also can look at the job durations by clicking on view history. It will show you the job execution history. So it will go into each and every job that is run on your desktop, on your designer, and it will show you the entire statistics screen, right? And you can also go to your, this is at the job level, and if you can, see sometimes job is triggered once, but the data flow that is used on that job can be triggered multiple times, right? So the same data flow can be used in multiple jobs, so it is triggered multiple times. So if you want to look at this one, you can pick from last 90 days, or you can go and pick a particular job and look at that. Or you can go to the data flow execution tab as well. And here you see a data flow execution history. So how much time each and every data flow is taking. So based on the execution time of a particular data flow, you go and see which one is running for a maximum time. So this is like 24 seconds because it has 17,000 records, and rows loaded were 34,000. That's decent. So you can just judge that. So this is 29 seconds because it has 26,000 records, right? So if the data volume is less, rows extracted and rows loaded are less, but still if your data flow is taking a lot of time, then you need to go and refine that particular data flow. So this is about your operational dashboards, which represent the dash that talks about the stats of your system, right? So job executions, is your job server overloaded, right? Job execution duration. So if then something goes beyond, it will go to red, and it will show you if it is red or green. So this is our operational dashboards, just to check the performance of your system. And the last one is here, the data quality reports, right? So you saw the report configuration path in administration server, so that path will be utilized here. Now this, look at this, views and exports reports based off, sorry, for batch and real-time jobs such as job summaries and data quality transformation reports. So if you use any data quality transformation reports, data quality transformations in your job, so those jobs will be displayed here, and you can go and select that and click on the report to export that into your structured PDF, which will pick the statistics here. So from the current versions 4.x, so there are so many bugs. So one is, this one is not displayed properly, right? The second one, your services, right? If you want to maintain services, call a WSDL, so that was another issue. So there are so many issues in the current version. So previous versions 3.x, if you just click on the magnifying glass, it will straight away open your PDF with a structured format report. But in this current version, I'm not sure like if I change the service pack on this, it will work or not, but this is an issue. These are the bugs that are present. So especially we will see one more thing tomorrow's session probably, right? So we will just give me a second. I'll keep asking for the usernames, but it's not showing any PDFs here. So what the previous versions it used to show. I think probably some system level settings and certificates needs to be set so that we can look at those PDFs. So it's not picking any of those things. So just ignore it. But once you click on this, I can see the reports, right? So you click on this, it will open this window. Here you need to create the username and password. And once you click on OK, so it will display a PDF, right, that shows you the statistics, right? What is the math score? What is the set score? So it will give you the complete scenarios of this one. So how much percentage of data is matched and all these things. Or you can go to a specific report and click on search. So from the drop down, so these are the reports that are generated on that job, and you can go and select them, right? So this is your data services management console, your admin page, where you can work as an administrator in looking at the local repositories, looking at the schedules, creating some schedules. Uh, Sometimes if some jobs need to be triggered, so let us say 5 people are working in my project as developers, and one did not turn up, and I need to run some of his jobs, and I don't know his credentials, I don't know his username and password. So in those cases, I can directly go to my data services management console. I can go into his repository, pick his job, and execute from my data services management console. So this is how it works. This is how you manage the environment as an administrator. You go and create the connections, you go and create the repositories and everything. So the entire management part is done from the administrator. So this is an admin tool, and there are few options that we did not cover when we are talking about the data services management console. We'll cover them in the topic called as real-time services, where where we need to do an initial system setup to make sure that these real-time services work. So they generally don't work on all the systems where data services is installed. So you first need to set up the environment as an admin to enable all these things to work. So once you do that, then you can see them getting activated, and you can work on these real-time services. So that's about our data services management console. Any questions? So guys, if you have any questions on this, please let me know. On today's topic, data services management console, you can ping me on chat if you have any questions, or you can ask me. All right. Abdul, Venkatesh, Bhargav, Sandeep. Alright, so you can go through this recording and let me know if you have any questions. So we have very few classes going forward. We just will be closing this training in 3 to 4 classes mostly. Right, so one is we have on real-time jobs, XML data. So this will take a day, and after that we have one more session on introduction to SAP HANA, its architecture, and how do you do. So the main agenda is to show how do you do a data load into SAP HANA, right? So how do you write the data into your SAP HANA system, and what are the different data provisioning mechanisms. I'll just take you through some screenshots that are available on the internet, the architecture screenshots and provisioning mechanisms, and how we do that using data services. So on data services front, I will show you on the system, read some data from some XYZ table and write it into SAP HANA and show you how it is loaded. And once it is done, we will go through the project orientation sessions, where we will have a session for 2 hours, where we will discuss on how, what are the different phases of the projects and how we handle them at different phases, where what person will get involved, where the manager gets involved, where the architect gets involved, where a developer, where a tester gets involved. So we will discuss different workshops at where which different people will get involved, and then we will see the methodologies. So BPDM is the previous version. The current version is also called as RDS, Rapid Deployment Solutions. So I'll walk you through the SAP Node and RDSs, and also the first methodology through which these data migration projects started. So initially when we started using data services in version 3.0, so there are no no method set, because those are the first data migration projects that ever happened using data services. So at those times, each and every company, they have their own created their own standards and started working on the data migrations. So one of the best methodology which is supported by SAP, all-in-one methodology, AIO. So we'll talk about that, and after that we will talk about the BPDMs and RDS, and then we will look at the live project, my most recent project, and what are the different activities that we did there. Yes, Zafar, you have a question?
Yeah, Rakesh, I just have only one question. At some point, like in the last session, are you showing some kind of functional or the technical specification so that we can get an idea, like in the ABAP development, like we have all documentation, right? So I just want to get some kind of touch, right? How it looks like, for example, when you start working as a BODS developer role, right? So how you get the documents, so please proceed.
Yeah, so for this BPDM, I'll show you BPDMs is nothing but your best practices for data migration, where you will have all your template jobs and even your mapping templates will be ready. So I'll walk you through them on BPDMs. Across the globe, if somebody is maintaining their jobs on BPDMs, so you can easily understand them. So I'll walk you through that. But for generic projects, it's against the policy. The companies with which I am working, against the policy to show their functional and technical documents. I should not use that material outside. But I will just try to see if I have any Word document which talks. But I generally write SOWs to my customers. So if you have any questions on that one,
no, actually,
what is technical,
in my
what
company,
is functional.
In my company, SAP is the main project implementation. So they are doing all the. So whenever we start working on some things, so we always get something from the functional and technical people, right?
Exactly.
And yeah. So I just want to see, like, I know in the ABAP development or when you do the business object reporting, you got something, right? For example, if you are creating one report, we don't know. For example, in the banking services in SAP, we have a VDAR table, right? We have everything there, right? So when we are creating a report, so they give us all, like, okay, so you are going to create this selection string, and you will go and you will select this field or something, right? Or when you have the report, so you have so and so columns, and that's how it works, right?
Yeah, the requirement,
so
the entire requirement document.
Yeah.
I'll just try to search for one, Jafar. So I should have probably a couple of years old document. So I'll just look for it, and I'll definitely open that functional and technical design. But my sincere request is, even though your dearest friend, don't share these things, because those are related to my career. So I really don't want to expose that. But since you are interested, I can pick off the logos from that document, and I'll walk you through a functional design document and a technical design document, and how it looks, and from where we have to catch as a developer. That's really a good question. go and pick like from where we need this and what are the points that we need to understand from this TD and FT. So I'll talk about that. So I'll walk you through that one as well.
Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Zafar. Right, guys, so thanks for joining today. Tomorrow we will not have a session, right? So again, we have it back on Monday night US time or Tuesday morning Indian time. So guys, from India and US, we have two sets here. So US people, we have, class at, sorry, Monday night US time, and Indian people, we have it from on Tuesday morning IST. So we'll again catch up in our next session, which is on Tuesday morning IST and Monday night CST. Till then, please practice whatever we have learned, because the last week we definitely made a tremendous progress. We looked into different areas of data services. So though it's huge, but I tried to push it on you slowly because you know the fundamentals strong, and I thought you guys can easily catch it up, and I see the response from you, the way you understand it. So kind of push some more subject onto you in the last week. So just go through this entire thing one time, and probably you must have some 13 to 15 hours recordings by now. So go through them and one more time, and if you have any questions, please let me know, because we have another just 3 sessions to complete the rest of the training. So prepare well and practice it on the system if you get time and chance. Then if you have any questions, please let me know. Alright guys, thanks for joining today, and we'll connect back in the next session. Alright, till then, have a wonderful weekend and enjoy.